been a while, so I've been doing other things. I've been doing things, but I haven't been recording them. So, what are we doing today? I've been asked to make some shelving for my son and daughter-in-law. They're doing a major knockdown rebuild of their house, and my daughter-in-law wants something a bit industrial for shelving. So she's asked me to make some shelves. So this is what I'm planning. She wants them to be a little bit artistic. All this stuff with artistry that I'm being asked to do. My sister's bench and now this. But basically, I want to have just a bit of a rethink there. But just some odd sort of size shelving when I've got a this coming out and it's hanging off here, and then that's supporting that end of that, and that's hanging off there, and the whole thing supported here. So I've got some weirdo sort of maybe artistic things with cantilevers. This angle iron, it's 25mm by 25mm, or inch by inch by 3mm, which is near enough to inch by 1/8 for those people that are into the old freedom units. I've cut this so far. So there's our 21s, 18s. So I've written on everything what it is. And this is all the vertical and horizontal pieces, front and back. Where that a little bit of work at the beginning can save you a lot of time at the end, I reckon. So this is the bar that came in here to support the this piece that will allow you to just continually make the same cut. And as you can see, I need 300mm or 294, and with this sitting like that, it's well short. With that, so I actually happen to have a lot of this Rio bar that was left over from scrounging I did for my sister's seat, and with just a little bit of grinding, it's near enough. Didn't even bother putting in a lathe or anything. I just ground off this and it fits. So now I have an end stop, and so now I can confidently just cut a pile of these off without having to measure them all. So small investment of time. Took me, by the time I found the steel and figured it out and everything, probably took 10 minutes to swap that out, and I'm guessing it'll pay for itself in this set of cuts. And I've got potentially 2 more of these shelves to make, and they're all going to need a whole pile of ones that are the same length, going giving it the depth. So let's start cutting. This is my off cut, which I better use for something else, but that's the off cut from 7.5 metre length, and the other bits have been sort of, well, these. So we're doing it right, and I'll find something to do with those at some stage. So now I have to look at these corners, and I'm thinking about how best to do the corners. Now I'm thinking that I might just on these cross pieces, on that piece here, just cut out, and I might put them in the mill and cut that right through so that that is undercut as well, and that way that can just slide, and these I can line these up, and they'll just overlap. And so if I just mill all of those 22mm off, 22mm here, right the way through, and cut this through at 3mm, then that'll just lay there and I'll be able to weld them all together. So that's my thinking. Well, that now sits like this. So if I do one end like that on all of them and then flip them around and do the other end reversed, we've got ourselves a nice corner joint, and we can use this over and over and over again. Here's an example of a simple thing. I mean, I needed to do all of these on both ends. I have to mill this undercut. Oh, we'll just cut out this section. And how do you set it up? All I did was mill this piece, just a slot, and that goes into here, which then supports this. And when I was cutting this one, I could put it like that, and now I'm cutting this end, I just turn it around and I go like that. So this supports the work with this ledge here, and that ledge is 2.5mm deep, and this is 3mm, and this is 3mm plate. So it means it just gets a little bite on it, so it's easy to drop it in, and then just having that to press it up against means that I can knock these over pretty quickly. It's a bit painful. I'm getting shavings all over the floor, and in fact, annoyingly, I didn't realise, but the sleeve of this jacket has a whole lot of shavings kind of stuck to it. So I've taken that off and swapped it for a long sleeve shirt, because these shavings are going everywhere, and they're blue hot, so you don't like them to hit you. I do have, I can see these little marks on my hand there. They're all burns from the shavings. So I'm starting to weld these frames up. You can see how the milling I did, that now just sits. I milled out this section here, so this sits down inside the side rails, the side rails here and here. It sits down, that holds it the right distance. So what I've done is I've got two of these standoffs bolted in to keep this side straight. Then I set this up correctly and put two of these, which are adjustable, to keep these in position. I've got two pins here to push this up against, and then my 3 clamps, and it holds everything in position while I weld it. Everything's nice and flat, and all I'm doing is just doing those 3 welds there. So yeah, that's basically what we're doing, and I've already welded these 2 up. Like I said, I could weld on the other side of that. I've welded in here, but honestly, the amount of weight this is holding is, it's just a display case. So no need to overdo it. We're moving along now. It's a sign of perspective. This room is 5 metres by 3 metres, and I don't know, the roof's about well, it's probably 2 metres up to here, something like that. I had to set this up on my welding table further toward here, that way, because I was hitting the roof and I couldn't get it square. So that's just missing the roof there. But this setup, I've got these two squared and these two squared. So it ought to be square. It just occurs to me that I hadn't actually put this onto it. How horrific is this going to be? Haha! There we go. It's all as it should be. That's certainly within a reasonable tolerance. Ugh. If I just put these back where they come from, I can find them next time. So, square back where it should be. So, I've welded up, you know, these three frames, and I'd also welded up all these frames. I did that with, I'm pretty sure I showed the setup that I used for them. And then I moved everything along a little bit. Same sort of deal, only here I've got a packer here, so I'm not bending this piece when I clamp it. And I welded the long legs onto these. I welded both ends of this, top and bottom, onto two of those on both ends. And then I needed a hand, so my lovely wife gave me a hand because everything was a bit frustrating, like a bit hard to do. Anyway, so we flipped it over and I put these up onto here. Now I just clamped across here. That clamp, it turned out to be, I swear if that was 2 mils bigger it wouldn't have fitted, but that's fine because it did fit. And I clamped these ends onto the sawhorse, so everything was held in position as it should be. And I welded both ends, and then I clamped all of this. I didn't have to clamp these because these are not going anywhere, but I clamped across here, and then I put that square in and clamped this centerpiece. So it's welded on this side. I won't get up on a ladder and weld that. This now has to be turned up the other way, but that was all square, and I was very pleased that it just sat where it wanted to sit, and when I checked it was within a millimetre or something over the length of that square, which is, well, we're on the imperial side, 600 mil or 22 inches. Whoops, no, 24 inches. There, that makes more sense because a foot is roughly 300 mil. So over that sort of distance it was square. It's starting to come together now. So we got, it's on its side but up the other opposite way, and I've decided to drop it down lower, so I should be able to, I had to keep climbing up a stool to weld the higher parts up. So it's easier to put these in when it's on its side. If you try to, I had it on its bottom like the correct way, and went to join bits together, like set it up so it was ready to weld, and it was an absolute pain. So it's easier if you can just stand these like I did before. You stand them and they stand fairly well, and then you can put these in and clamp it all. But it's starting to become a thing. Well, fun thing happened, and that's annoying. Fun thing happened the other day, a couple of days ago. So I've got this whole thing, I've welded it all together, and with great pride and enthusiasm I show my wife this amazing structure I built. And she looks up here and she said, you know, that's a funny thing, there must be an optical illusion. It looks like this shelf here, it looks like this shelf is not level. And I look at it and go, oh, it looks like that shelf's not level. So I get my tape and I discover that yes, that shelf's not level. So what has happened is I've marked, you can see a line here, and that is meant to be the top of the shelf, and I have welded the bottom of the shelf level with that. Thereby I'm 25mm out at the point that this down piece goes, which meant I was down around 32mm too low there. So I have had to cut these welds, and I will have to bring this down here. I also cut this weld here and here. You can't really see, I'm focusing, but yeah, I cut those. It's still pulling back up, but it's got to bend these welds at the back. But I can move it. So I need to move this down here and weld it there. I need to weld it there. So I have to grind this. Keep pointing in the wrong direction. I have to grind this weld just to clean that up, these ones. And this one. And re-weld them. But yes, best laid plans of mice and men, as they say. Not a huge thing, it's only taken me sort of 10 minutes to cut those welds. It's got a little bit messy here. I'm wondering whether I need to weld this. It's got a little bit messy here. I wonder if I need to put some weld on there and then grind it back. But then actually I look at that, it's going to weld it there, so that'll tidy that up. And so that's all right. And I'll just have to tidy this bit of weld up. I'll just have to tidy this bit of weld up here. By the time I paint it all, I'm not thinking it's going to be a major problem. But I don't know, probably was a bit tired or something. And I drew the line and I welded it to the wrong side of the line. Well, I've cut the shelves all out. I actually got a bit of a shock. I went, and these are all, well, they're about 298mm, and you got a 1200mm sheet wide, 12 by 2400. And previously, where I bought this ply from, you could get the ply cut for like $1 a cut or something. And so I needed 3 cuts, and I thought, well, you know, $3 means I don't have to rip the whole thing down. My gear, I can, well, actually I used this saw, which was a new purchase for the saw, nice cheap things from Aldi actually. This was a saw I was using before, and it couldn't quite get 300 wide. Anyway, so I docked these off. I was going to just dock these off and get the company to just put down 3 cuts to get 4 pieces off at 300. And they said, oh, it's $25 a sheet. And I was a little, what? So that turns into $8.33 a cut. But on the other hand, this stuff is quite awkward for me to cut as a sheet. So I buckled and paid the $25. But if I'd known that, I would have brought my cutting list and I would have got them to dock them all to length as well. If they're going to charge me per sheet, why am I at home using my saw to cut. Well, here it is painted. There's some controversy about this. My wife likes, I had two versions of or two different brands of paint. Oops, two different versions of paint, and this one's a flatter, more matte finish than the other one, and she preferred the slightly less matte. But it's now, I've given it a number of coats, and I think it's been on its side, and because when we turned it over there was a pile that wasn't painted that I'd missed. But she's pretty well ready to go. I've got all the, obviously, all the shelves, but the ply, but Sam can decide what colour she wants that, and we'll let this harden off for a bit before we go moving it. Well, here we are, happy that it's actually gone onto the roof, no problems. Here's my, I've just, I'll get into a different light. I've just made these are cup heads here. They're just a cup head, you see, anyway. And just a bit of angle left over from this job. And they're attached on the 6 points. And then to hold it down, I've just got a bugle bolt into these bits of timber, and I've got them in 4 places. And apparently I'm currently being recorded by my neighbour's security camera. But I've got that in 4 places, and there is the car's moving. So that is going to be plenty strong enough to get it to where it needs to go. And then it's just unscrew those 4 bugle bolts. I didn't really want to have straps over it because they'd inevitably mark it. I've already got some marks. I knew I would. But I've got a can of spray, so when we get it down there we can just touch up any marks. And so we're about to head down to deliver it. My daughter-in-law has actually seen it and said, oh, actually that's exactly what I was after, so that's good. And of course all of the shelves fit easily in the back, no problems at all. So I'm pretty confident that this is going to be no problem at all getting it down there. Well, here it is in its final resting place. Still needs to be stained, but basically it's all come together pretty well. I transported it down here and we didn't have any trouble, and even starting to get a few ornaments thrown on it. And fortunately for all, it's turned out that she really likes it, so that's very good. So I've got to make another one. His lounge needs to get undone tonight, but it's going to go in this corner over here. But it's a smaller one, 1200 by 1200, whereas this is 1800 by 2100. But there it is.